Welcome to the shortwave radio channel and little verdict or little discussion. You guys have seen my tests of a few stations, and I'm going to try to do more. I want to use these two radios as my main radio for my main radios for this week. I will spend the whole week using only these two radios, and Degen DE1103 versus the Tecsun PL 680. I've had these two radios for a long time. They come, the Degen DE1103 I've had before the PL 680. But they are still two radios that are several years old. I mean, these are more than 5 years old for sure. I'm trying to remember when I purchased this. I would have to go to my eBay history to see when I ordered those. But they're more than 5 years old, that is for sure. So Degen DE1103, very unique radio with its unique interface here at the surface. When you look at it, the imitation of a analog dial with an LCD line, kind of interesting. The awkward series of buttons lined up rather than being in a keypad form is kind of interesting. The PL680, kind of using roughly the same look as the PL600, but with added couple of features. They added sync detection. They've added airband. Solid performer. For those that don't remember, I've had a problem with the encoder that jammed. Fast load that you guys know from in the chat room has taken a look and actually put some sewing machine oil in. It's still a little stiff, but it works. That's the important thing. Mine has a roughly roughly 1.5 kilohertz off in the frequency display. For those that always tell me, oh, you can calibrate, you cannot calibrate a PL680. You can calibrate a PL660. There's a setting for that, but not on the PL680, unfortunately. It doesn't, I'm not going too crazy over that. It is annoying when you want to have a perfect frequency readout to see it a little off, but it still receives and still works, so I kind of live with it, and that's it. Performance wise, it's interesting because I've both plugged them. Usually when I test radios, I don't plug the sloper antenna directly to the antenna. What I do is I do coupling. So I take the antenna connector and I just roll it around the telescopic. What that does is it helps reception because it does still make use of the sloper, but because there's no physical direct metal to metal connection, it doesn't connect directly, so the signals are a little weaker, but still much better than just on the telescopic. On these two, I decided to actually plug the sloper directly. And it's interesting because one of the aspects that I noticed is that the Degen DE1103 actually copes better with very strong signals than the PL680 does. So in the most part, when signals are not too strong, both work perfectly with the sloper. I haven't seen any overloading of a signal to another signal in the test that I did, or the listening that I did. But on some of the strong signals, for example, I didn't do a video, but I had Voice of Vietnam 7315. That one is often very, very strong here. Well, without attenuation, the Degen DE1103 was giving me Voice of Vietnam full scale, perfect reception. On the Tecsun PL 680, I actually had to use the switch on the left side here. There's a DX local switch. I actually had to use the switch to attenuate the signal because there was no audio because it was too overloaded and it seemed the radio couldn't cope with it. Once I put the switch from DX to local, the signal was perfect. So it's interesting. It seems that the Degen copes a little better with strong signals than the PL680. As for the audio quality, the PL680 blows the Degen DE1103 really, it is much better audio on the PL680. The frequency response of that speaker is great. Better on single sideband, better on the AM shortwave listening. The Degen is a little thinny. It's a little more like there's lack of bass response in the audio, so the low frequencies aren't there. Where the PL680, that is there, so it's kind of a more rich environment in listening to audio on it. Makes it easier on the ears also a little bit, because there's kind of less hiss, as if the top frequencies are kind of chopped off a little bit. But overall, both perform really well. Both are really amazing radios to use. I've been having a lot of fun using both of them and kind of rediscovering them also. They've been solid performers. A lot of people, when we talk about Chinese radios and these companies like Tecsun and Degen and, XH Data and companies we don't really know much, and we've learned that they exist because of shortwave radios and my videos that I do and purchasing them. And from what I see, because I see a lot of people complaining, saying, well, they're cheap and I broke the antenna and I did this and I did that. I will tell you, I'll be very fair here. I think there's a lot more, that has a lot more to do with people being too rough with their radios. The antenna is the first thing we break on the radio if we're not careful. And although, yes, it's possible that some radios might actually have, a problem or something, for the most part, what I see is more people are just too rough and they don't handle the radio correctly. Because honestly, I have a lot of Texans. I have the Degens. I broke one Tecsun antenna, and the only reason I broke it is because I was not careful. Personally, I broke the top off because I didn't, I closed it from the top instead of collapsing it at the bottom. You also got to be careful when you, to take the antenna out. You got to be careful not to go too far. And remember, these radios are made of plastic. And I have to say, I have older receivers. For example, the old Grundig Yachtboy 400 I had, I broke the antenna. And those are radios from the 90s. I broke an antenna off of my Grundig G5. And most of the time it's because I just pulled too hard. What I see here is that these radios are not cheaper in the antenna or on the design itself than any of those radios. So when somebody says, well, it's because they're cheap Chinese crap, I don't at all agree with that. They are great radios, and they are not cheaper than anything else that's on the market. You also got to remember that these are made entirely of plastic today. It's not like a radio from the 80s when there was a lot more metal parts and a lot more sturdiness in some of those radios made back then. It was, designed better. But overall, if you're careful and you take care, they're pretty good. If anybody would ask me which one would I choose if I would have only these two radios that I have to buy one of them, I would clearly pick, again, a PL680. I have, because of the better audio and the sting detection, and not really because of the airband. Honestly, airband is more of a novelty on these radios. I always say if you're fond of airband, buy yourself a scanner. You can get cheap scanners, that perform so much better than any of these radios on the airband. Scans so much faster. It's fun to have, but I never go to the airband on these radios. When I want to listen to the airband, I pick out one of my scanners. It's much more interesting. So I would say PL680 for the sheer, for the sing detection and for the beautiful audio it gives me. And it's a nice, beautiful radio, nice form factor also. So that's my little discussion and personal opinion on these radios. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. And one last thing before, yes, I just remembered I wanted to talk about that. Tuning around single sideband. is much easier on the Tecsun also. The Degen doesn't have a separate upper-lower sideband. It just has single sideband. So you got that BFO that you got to move up or down. On the Tecsun, you have separate upper-lower sideband, which is cool. And you have also a little dent in the BFO, which gives you an idea where you are centered. That is also pretty cool because it makes it much easier to know roughly where you are in the BFO. And I always like radios that put a little dent that you can feel on the BFO button to see where you're kind of zero beat technically. So the Tecsun wins here in how easy it is to tune single sideband. It's still not that difficult on the Degen, but that little, the separate upper lower sideband and the little dent in the BFO does make it easier to tune a single sideband signal on the Tecsun PL 680. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.